You know, travelling about nowadays from one country to another, you've got a terrible job to know where on earth you are. You do get a bit confused. Well, all airports look the same, and certain parts of big cities look the same, mainly functional, with not much to delight the eye. You really have to look hard for signs to tell you just where you are. Airports, cities, and hotels now all look the same. But there are some cities that have managed to keep some individual features. London, of course, has so many. Yes, you remember them so well. The Tower of London, the River Thames, the Houses of Parliament and Big Ben, and there's the dear old London taxi. You always know that you're in London by the taxis. Probably the most sensible and comfortable vehicle ever made. Designed so that a gentleman could enter it and leave it without taking his hat off. It's a great comfort, you know, being in London, knowing where you are, and knowing that in a minute or two you'll be in your own comfortable home. Now, won't that be nice? To see those old familiar faces again. To be welcomed so warmly by everyone at the Selfridge Hotel in London, one of over 40 Thistle hotels throughout Great Britain, and you can make your reservations for any of them from practically every country in the world. You know, to create an atmosphere as rare as the one the Selfridge Hotel has so firmly established depends on one simple old-fashioned rule. The hotel guest is the most important person in the hotel. I'll never forget staying at some of the old inns of Japan. The owner and his wife and family were always there to greet you. They assumed that you were hot, tired and dusty. You're in dire need of fond care and attention. Leave it to us. You're here to escape the harsh realities of life. Now, after I check in, I always like to walk up to the first floor. Well, there are two very good reasons for this. Good staircases are becoming very rare nowadays. You don't very often see one like this. Well, I have a bit of an addiction to wood. Wood has a wonderful, relaxing quality about it. It's here, in the lounge. In this era of concrete, it's so comforting to know that there are still a few architects about who prefer to use what was once a living tree. Cheers, my dear. Oh, it's so lovely to sit down, isn't it? Yes, isn't it? There are always quite a few people in the lounge, and yet it's so arranged that you can all sit quite apart. No one will know that you're going to knock back all those cream cakes with your tea, will they? No. And no one will know just what sort of a deal you're doing, will they? No, you're right. No one will know about this. And no one had better know about this, had they? No. But we won't dally here too long, because the other reason that I like to climb those beautiful stairs is that Stove's Bar is so very handy. And I like to have just one before going into dinner. Not only that, but Mario, the head barman, like the rest of the people you meet here, knows almost as much about me as I do about myself. Mario is a wizard at mixing magic potions. He's been a barman for the best part of 20 years, and he says you do meet quite a collection of people. Some, well, most really, are very friendly, but there's some that absolutely ignore you. Behave as though you're just not there. That's because they are used to being ignored. And a guest who's made to feel that he's a nuisance, in self-defense, just switches off. It's a vicious circle. But you're far from ignored here. Mario knows what I like to drink, and it's sent over to my table. It really is very pleasant to sit here in the Stove's Bar and just relax, watching Mario make a steady stream of prize-winning cocktails. If you enjoy the subtleties of a crafty cocktail, Mario's the man to make you one. You know, I must have stayed in thousands of hotels in my traveling life, all well-recommended hotels. Comfortable? Yes. Clean? Yes. Good service? Yes. Efficient? Yes. And yet I don't remember a thing about them. There is nothing to remember about them because they're all the same. They just treat you as though you were the kitchen cat. As long as you get your saucer of milk, that'll do. But show a cat some affection and stroke it, and it'll start to purr. Nicest sound in the world is a cat purring. Mario says some guests ignore him. That's because they are used to being ignored. They've never ever been looked after with care and affection. Things are so very different here. You start purring the moment you come into the place. And Bob the pianist purrs along with what used to be called a marvellous touch, playing to the guests who've come for a private party in the conservatory and for the diners in the superb Fletcher's restaurant. You know, I well remember the days before the jet aircraft started screaming us all over the world. The only way to cross the Atlantic was in one of those superb ocean liners. The service in those luxurious dining rooms was excellent. The food, wonderfully good. Not a detail overlooked. Well, ships' captains were meticulous men. They were proud of their grand shining ships, and it was an honor to be invited to sit at the captain's table. In many ways, this hotel is very like that. And here, too, you can be invited to take dinner with the captain, in this case, the general manager. Just look at the pâté he puts on to start with. Every Wednesday, the general manager invites a few guests to dinner with him. Tonight, the party includes Mr. Sabo Kimura from Tokyo and Mr. and Mrs. Dawson from Boston. They've been here before, and they're back again. People do come back again and again. Your very good health. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. In most hotels, you never ever see a manager. They stay well out of the way. All you know about the manager is the form that he puts in your room, asking you to put little ticks in boxes, saying this was good and that was bad. Here, the general manager is most anxious to know at first hand what you really think of things here. For he is the captain of the ship, and he calls this the captain's table. So many hotels these days are controlled and run from their head offices. That subtle but important personal touch is just not there. So how is it done here at the Selfridge? Well, quite simply, by delegation. All the managers of the different departments, from banqueting to reception, meet the general manager at 9 o'clock each day so that everyone knows what's going on. Well, different people like different things, and the head housekeeper knows very well that Mr. and Mrs. Van Kuffler like a bottle of champagne to be ready for them when they arrive, whatever time of day. Well, there are around 300 bedrooms and suites here, and what you wish is your command, and we obey. Now, there is a request from room 405. The clients are celebrating an anniversary, and could a small but attractive cake be sent up at about 9 that evening? Well, that is a small request, but there it is. Go on, blow. Well, 2's easy. And 2 are comparatively easy. But what about 500? Well, it is a bit more complicated, of course. But the Selfridge suite can quite comfortably put on a banquet for 250 and cocktails for 500. Now, it won't be long before they'll be coming in for a dinner dance. About 200 for this particular function, and everything looking lovely and beautifully under control. Life can be so easy when it's sensibly organized. The drawing room for business meetings or private parties. And do we have any problems with the picnic basket? Well, not really. It really does run like a well-oiled machine. The picnic basket opens at 7 in the morning and stays open for the next 18 hours. Yes, 18 hours. It doesn't close until 1 o'clock in the morning. It's a charming room, and everything about it is just right. In fact, it's one of the best coffee shops in London. The menu is just about as varied as you'll find anywhere, and that probably explains why so many Londoners eat here. Amazing, isn't it? It's open 18 hours every day, and yet to look at it, you'd honestly think it had freshly opened 10 minutes ago. The picnic basket in the Selfridge Hotel lies just behind Oxford Street. It's only a couple of minutes from Bond Street with its world-famous stores. And of course, it's so close to Piccadilly, Harrods, and the theatres. You know, there are so many different ways of enjoying yourself in the big cities of the world. All very tempting indeed. But you know, it takes a lot to tempt me away from home nowadays, especially when you've got a home like this. And this is my home when I'm in London. I know just where I am. Just as you always know you're in London when you step into a London taxi. There's nothing in the world quite like it. Yes, you always know you're in London when you stay at the Selfridge Hotel. There's nowhere in the world quite like it.